Hello everyone. So this video will going to be very interesting. So if you see this code, so this is what we will going to be learn how to have a better design for handling this HTTP calls. And this is like throughout projects we will going to like so many HTTP calls. So we should have some unique way, some common patterns where we will going to handle this type of a common flow of a HTTP calls. So we don't need to write on in a separate in every component like a repeating the same like for handling the loadings, for handling the error, for handling the success responses. So if you see this code, so this is like in very elegant. So if you see, we have a use status, we have defined like a empty, and this is like for the users calls. And if you see this fetch post, like if you see this, in case of this post status internally will going to be handle everything. In case of a data, here we will going to have a data. In case of a error, here we will going to have a error. And based on this call, we have an independent dependent call here for fetching the users. So similar for the users, we will going to have something like that. And this user status wrapper internally will going to be handle everything. So here if you see this JSX, so this is looking very elegant. If you see post status, in case of loading, this is the view. In case of error, this is the view. In case of a data, this is the view. And if you see this post status, so it is coming from this reusable hook. So this is the status, we name this as a post status. Similar for the user status, we name this as a user status. So this is very good design patterns. I really encourage you follow this video and please watch this till the end. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video we will going to learn about the basic best practices of a React project. So first things we will going to learn about the HTTP call. So first we will going to understand the problem. So let's start creating a few components. So let's create one components here. So let's do one thing. So let's go to inside the app.tsx. So let's delete everything from here. Refresh this. So let me show you. So this is the just a basic project I have created using this create react app. So I have not added anything. So if you see here, so this is all we will going to display on the screen. So we will going to do everything from the scratch. So let's do one thing, just import the axios. I have added the axios as a dependency. So let's import the axios. So first call we will going to make to fetch some post. So basically I am going to use this let me show you, JSON placeholders calls. So this is the very good website. Using this website, you can just use this fake data to uh, these are the like common endpoints which is provided by this domain JSON placeholders. So we can use these fake data to build up some kinds of applications, and at the end we can replace these things. So we will going to use these endpoints, right? So let's use this endpoint. So let's create a one function, let fetch post. So when we going to call this function, so just assume, so as part of this function, so we will going to fetch some data. So axios dot get, my bad, axios dot get, and this is the endpoints we will going to use. So when we going to fetch this, so it will going to return only one post, right? So let's wait for this, and we have to make this function as async. So let's mark this function as async. So when we have this data, so after that we need to store this data. So let's create a local state post and set post. So this is the basic things like we used to do. So post, and we need to define the structures of a post. So let's define type for the post. So if we see in our call, so in the post, let's retrieve only one record. So in the post we will going to have a user id, titles and body. So let's define this. User ID will going to be type of a number, and if you feel I am going very slow, then you can just watch this video in a 1.5x or something. And second is the title, and third fourth is body. So this is all we have defined for the post. So as part of this state, we will going to store the post data, and defaults will going to be null. So now if we see, when we have this post response, so post response dot data dot, if you see here, we will not going to have any kind of suggestions or anything. So here we need to tell when this call will going to resolve. So this will going to return the axios response, which is type of the post. So let's use this post. So now if we see here, we will going to have all the fields which is available on the post. So let's store this data in our post status. So this is pretty simple, like we used to do. So just assume when we going to fetch this post, so after fetching this post, let's assume ki we are also interested in this user ID. We also wants to fetch the data, the author of this post also. So we have another point for fetching the data of author. So this is the common endpoints. You can use this. These are the basic public endpoints. So we can pass the user's ID, and based on that we will going to have this data. So we will going to just interested in these ID and name for now. Just assume this is our requirement. So we are just trying to replicate some real type of a scenario. So let's introduce this also, user response, and await axios.get, and here we need to pass the users informations, users ID, and let's retrieve this users ID from the post response dot data dot user ID. And once we have this users ID, we need to store this informations also. So let's introduce another state, users, and set users, and let's define users fields also, users interface also. What type of data we will going to have? First is the number, sorry, ID, which is type of a number. Second is the name. So this is two fields we will going to used in our code. So let's define type for these two only for now. And one more things also, so getting the types correctly matched for this user response, here we need to define the axios response type, which is user. So now we have a data. So let's store this informations, users response dot data. So now we have a data. So here if you see, we are going just in a happy scenario. We have not introduced, we are not handling any error for now. So here just assume. So let's introduce one div, and here we will going to show this post data if post data is available. So let's define here post, just title, and just below this post we will going to define users also, user, and here we will going to display that's name. Let's use inline. This is not the best practices for using this inline css, so I'm just using this only for this demo purpose. Just ignore this. So now if we see on the UI side, so let's call this also. Here let's introduce one button, fetch post. So this is all we need to do. So now if we see on the UI, let's go here and refresh this. So if you see here, we will going to have this, let's use break line also. Yeah. So let's refresh this. So if you see, we don't have post, we don't have any users. So when we click on this fetch post, so it will going to retrieve this post, and after that it will going to retrieve this users. So now if we, let's put this in a slow mode. So if I refresh, if I click again, and if I go immediately in off mode, let me refresh this 1 minute. Yeah. So let's go in a slow mode. So if I click on this fetch post, so if I go immediately in offline mode, so here if you see, this call is failed. So if we see inside the console, so we will going to have this error. So here it is clearly saying uncaught error. So we have not wrote any code for handling this error, and we even we don't have any kind of a loaders or any kind of a things. So in case if we wants to introduce like a just to notify the users ki something is happening, we need some kind of a loaders. In case of error, we need to show the users ki something has went wrong. So generally how we do this type of things, so we generally have a status like this: post loading, set post loading. I'm just going to use this only for the post. Yeah. And the default is like a false. In a similar way, we will going to have some error also for post error. And let's set this null. So this is how we used to do. So when we going to make this call, so this call can fail, right? So we need to wrap this call in inside try and catch. This is how we handle this type of a situation. So let's put this whole code inside the try and catch, and here we need to write the catch. So when we going to have this error, so we can store this errors also. So before making this call, first we need to like a set post loading true. And once we have this data, so after that we will going to set this set loading false. Now we have the data, and in case of error, so first things we will going to get set loading false and set post error. So here we can set this error. And one more things also, like if we are calling this in a multiple times, so before making any call, so we need to first enable the calls, and here we need to set like a null. It is giving for error, so for now let's use this like any. Yeah. So now this is the basic things we used to do, and you will going to find this type of a things very common in a code. So similar kind of a things we need to do for this also. So this is a dependent call, like when post we have fetched the post successfully, after that we will going to call we will going to perform this operation, and this operation can also fail. We again need to wrap this inside try and catch, and here we need to introduce catch this. So this is how we used to do. So if you see here, if we have a, like a three, generally we have like a two and three dependents call. So if you see have this thing, so it's like a stacking of a try catch and try catch, this type of things, right? And for every calls we need to maintain like a three state for handling the loading, for storing the error, for storing the data. And we can use this informations to display some kind of information. So like this, here we can display like a loading post, and we can display this like a post loading is enables, then display this. Usually we don't use we should not use this end operation. We should write code like this. And let's copy this, and similar things we can do in error case also, post error. And if you are wondering, I am doing the same common thing, so please give me some time. So first we will going to replicate the issue. So this is how we used to do, and at the last we will going to discuss how we can have the better uh, a design for handling the same kind of scenario. So here we will going, when we have a error, so this is how we will going to display error. So now let's see. So let me go inside the network tabs and select no throttling and refresh this. So now put this in a slow 3G and click on this fetch post. So if you see loading post, and now we have the data. So let's go back, no throttling and refresh this, slow 3G, and now click on this and immediately go in offline mode. So if you see here, we have a corresponding message like error post. So now it is behaving correctly. So we can have like some kind of a view on a loading type, some kind of message on the error type, and when we have a data, we will going to display the data. So this is how we used to do, and similar kind of a things we need to do for the users also. And one more things also, if you see, so here we will going to have like a try catch and try catch. If you wants to handle this in a better way, sometimes what developers used to do, so they just use this catch here, and inside this catch they can write this code here, something like that, right? So here we will going to have errors, and here we will going to do the all the things here, whatever we are doing, we can do these things here. So in this designs, at least we will not going to have like this try and catch, and we can write like a code when we are making this dependent call. Then first we can check if there is a no post error, then do this, otherwise no need to do this, and we can handle this instead of writing try and catch, we can handle this error scenario like this. Let me show you. In case if you have any confusion, we can have like this, and this data we can have, and in a similar case we can have like a data. And if we hover over the data, so if we see it's a axios post, so let's copy this from here, we can put it here. Sorry, let me remove this. Post response is the better name, so let's paste it here. So now if you see here, at least now we can remove this, like first we will going to set this post loading true and post error false, and in case of a success, here we will going to set the data. In case of a catch, we will going to set the data. If you see, this is the same functionality we are calling. Then we have like a finally, inside the finally you can like set this common operations which we are doing in case of a failures and success. So let's delete this from here. So this is how you can have the code in a similar way when we are making this call. So let's cut it and let's remove this try and catch, paste it here, and also remove this from here. So when we are making this call, we can wrap this call inside like a if. So here if you see, it's saying like a void. Okay, so here you can wrote like post post, if there is a post, then do this, right? So here you will going to have the problem. So this post will not going to exist, even though you will going to think we have set the post here. So we will going to have the post here, and we know that. So when we are setting this, when we are calling this local state setter dispatch, right? So these are the synchronous calls, right? So here we are setting this, so ideally this post data should present here, but this data will not going to present here. We can test this with console log. Let's put this state here. So if you see here, we are setting the post, so ideally this post should available here, but this will not going to be present. So let's go. So let's put this in on no throttling. Let's refresh this. Okay, this is giving the error, so we will going to get the same data from the post dot users id. So everything looks fine. So this code is looking like a more elegant from before what we write. So here we will going to wait also, and this is how we will going to handle the scenario. So it is looking like a good. Here we will going to set the post. In case we have a post, then make the users calls, otherwise no need to make the user calls. And in the similar way we can write the code for the users calls also, right? It is looking very good. So now if we make this call, so if you see here we don't have any users call, right? And if we go inside the console, so if you see it is saying post is undefined. So now I have a questions for you. So this is the one thing, like you are thinking maybe for set, here we are calling this dispatch set post, and it will going to take some time for setting this posts. And maybe you will going to think this set post is like a sync process, so it will going to set when we call this, it is not immediately going to set this post. But I'm just telling you this is like a synchronous call. When we call this, immediately it will going to set this post. Then why we are not getting this post data here? So I really encourage, just pause this video and just think. So one guarantee I'm giving you, this set post is the synchronous, and still we are not having the data here. Why? So just recall the basic of the JavaScript. So we know that lexical environments. When we call any functions, so that lexical environment will going to be created for that functions, right? So lexical environment generally going to contain all the commons, global variables data, and some internal variables data, whatever it is, right? So if we see, when we call this fetch post, so lexical environment will going to be created this post, right, for this functions. So during the creation of the lexical environment, so at that time post will going to be like undefined, right? So whenever we will going to fetch the post, so through that lexical environment we will going to get the post. So when we are calling this set post, or the on in the actual environments we will going to have the post, but in the lexical environments from this function is getting this post data, where we will not going to have the post. So this is the basic common. So how developers generally get these post data? So generally you will find out this common codes developer write like this. They define like a let post, right? And they call this like a set post, and here we can pass function post, and from here we can like a post id, this post dot id. Here we can store this post dot id, and from here we can return the same post. So if you see here, we are calling this set post. This is the again same dispatch, and we are calling this set post, and here we are getting this previous data, whatever is stored corresponding the state of this dispatch. We are this in this functions we will going to get that data, right? And we are just retrieving the id and storing in the local variable and returning the same. So here if you see, we are returning the same post, so reference will not going to be changed. So this set post will not going to trigger any kind of a change, any kind of a refresh of our view, right? And here we will just get this post id, and now we can use the same post id here. Sorry, we need user id instead of post id. So user id, so here we have defined this user id, and now we can remove this like this, right? So now let's see it will going to be work or not. So let's refresh this. So now if I click here, so again it will not going to be. So let's do one thing, cut it. Okay, this is very interesting, like we have set this call here, then why we are not getting this post? Okay, let's do one thing. I'm just wondering, maybe it is not waiting for this call. So if we go here and let's try this post and post response. So here we are, this call is invoking first this post response. So let's cut it, copy this from here, and let's store this here. Let's write this as pre. So if you see here, so inside the pre is getting invoked. So inside the pre, we will going to have the user's ID, and here we are going to define this user's ID. And this is very interesting. Like we are calling this set post here, and this user's ID log is getting appear first. If you see here, this is user's ID, and this pre uh, function is getting appear at the last. This is very interesting. So okay, so let's ignore this thing. So no need to be like a worry. So we can do one things like in case we need this users. So we will look this thing why it is like behaving in a sync way when we are calling this post. For me, it's look like this users ID is getting appear first, even though here we are logging, and this is getting appeared at the last. So if we see even here, so this is like a set post, and it is just returning the void. So for me it's look like it is not behaving like as expected. So we can have like a just remove this. So we can do one thing like if we need the users ID, so we can define these things here, and here we can store this like a users ID. Let me remove this from here, users ID and equal like a post response dot data dots users ID. This is how, right? And let's remove this, refresh this. Now if we call, so we will going to have the users. So when we need the users, this is how we will going to get the users for the dependent calls, and this is how we will going to have this data. So this is the best things like you can do, but it is like again the same things. So even in my opinion, that try catch handling this type of scenario with a try catch was a way more elegant, using this like having some internal state like a user's ID and mutating throughout the codes and using the same. And we should like a favor more on the functional style of a code. We should avoid like a mutating the states. I am just going back to the try catch. So this is just I show you. Okay, maybe you can think you can handle this if you don't want to have like a try catch like a stacking. You can do these things in a better way, like with the help of catch, and then like I did, maybe you find out this code is more elegant comparing to this try catch. I'm just going back to the try catch, and I will explain the issue. Yeah. So let's refresh this, and if I call, yeah, everything is working fine. So let me explain you. If you see here, so for tracking the status of the post call, we will going to have a three fields here, like a three states. And similar for the users, we will going to have a three. And we will going to have a six state, like stacking each others. Maybe you can think more smartly. You can have one like objects, internally object. You can have like a data, error, post, something like that. You can do that. So here if you see, for every like for every status, we will going to write the code like this. When post is loading, so this. When post we have a post error, then so this. When we have a data, then so this. So just think like that throughout the development of any project. So we will going to have this type of scenario very very common. Whenever we will going to make the HTTP call, these three things we will going to have whenever we will going to handle, right? So we should not just think like that. This is like a triggering point. We should have some common functionality so that we can reuse the same things and again. So let's do that. Let's solve this issue. So we will going to create one common hook. So let's call this hook like a use status, and you will going to I am just pretty much sure you will going to like this design. So if you like this designs, I really encourage you to use this throughout your projects. So let's import React. This is the first things we do. And after importing the React, so let's define the use status. So this will going to be one function. So it will going to receive initial state. So like for every call we will going to have like an initial state, maybe a loading we will going to have an initial state when we are calling that on load, like inside the use effects like component mount. And maybe if we have like a user action for triggering that call, then initial state we will going to have like a empty, no need to render anything at all on the UI. So we can have something like that. So for now I'm just writing this any, we will going to define the type. So this initial state, so inside this hook, let's define a current view. So what is the current view? I will going to explain. Just follow with me. Set current view and use state. And here just pass this initial state. So whatever we have passed by calling this hook, so we will going to store. And let's define a view. So we will going to have like a loading view, which is going to be type of a React element. And after that we will going to have a error view. Again this will going to be type of a React elements, and we will going to have a data view. So these are the common view for every call we will going to have, right? And now let's define the type view state. So here we will going to define like a type for like a loading. This is the first view state, and second is error, and third is the data, and fourth is like a empty. If we are not calling that call in on load, then maybe we don't want to render at all anything on screen. So for that case we will going to have a empty, right? So this initial state will going to be like a view state, anything from out of these four options. And whatever we will going to have, we will going to immediately going to store our internal state. So after that, let's create a internal small component. So this is like a React components. So here we will going to have like a view, and this will going to be type of a view. So user will going to define this view. So what will be the view for the data, what will be the view for the error, and for loading. So once we have the view, so after that first things we will going to see if current view equals empty, right? If the current value of this current view is the value of this is like a empty, then users don't want to display anything on screen, so it's like a null, right? And in other case, so we will going to return like a view and current view. So maybe this is like a very confusing for you, so let me explain you. Just bear with me. So this will going to take little bit more time, but at the last you will going to have a some good design. So this is how. So when we going to define this status, so we will going to use something like that in our code, right? So here we will going to have a error view. So in error case, like we will going to have something like this, error view, something like that. Or maybe it can maybe it will be like a complete reusable components. We can have use this components in a similar way. We will going to have a loading, right? And here we will going to have a loading view. So these are the values like errors, loading. This is what we will going to receive here from the view. So when the current value, like a current value, what I mean, this current view, if current view value is like a error, right? So how we are using this? So when we are using this, what does it mean? Now maybe it's clear for you. So this view will going to be contain this error loading, this object, right? And this objects we are retrieving this field. So in our case, like if it is like a error, then we are retrieving this error field, means this data. So we are just returning this data from here. So I hope it's clear for you. I did my best to explain you. So this is how we will going to define this little functions. So after that, so from after that we need to return, and here we will going to use like a use memo on every re-renders. Whenever our parent component is re-rendering, we don't want to re-render this our status again and again. We just want to re-render whenever this current view is going to be changed. When this current view will going to be changed, just invoke these functions, and from here we will going to return. So from here we will going to return one object. So inside this objects, first things we will going to return this status. This status will going to be contain the enable current view. In case of this current view is containing error, then this status will going to be return only this view. If this is containing a loading, then this will going to return this, something like that, right? And for now I'm just going to return from here current view. We will going to enhance little bit more. So first let's understand the first step only. So this is how we have defined this components. So let's export this status. So this is how we have defined this components. So now let's import this components. Import use status, right? And how we will going to use this status? So let's define const use status, and initials value we will going to define our case empty, like this. So this will going to return status and set current view, right? So now let's use this status. So maybe give me this local name like a post status, set post view. Okay, so now let's use this post status. So here we will going to use this post status like this. And this post status we will going to have one fields loading. What we wants to display when we have a loading view? So this is what we wants to display. Just put it here, and now delete this here. The second things, we will going to have a error view. So in case of error, what we wants to display? This is the view in our case. And here I am just writing this like a div. Maybe you can have a full-fledged React components and just import that React component and pass it here, right? And in case of a data, we just wants to display this data like this. Let's cut it here and put it here. Just delete this. So now we have defined this post status. So now it is looking more elegant, and if anyone look this, any new developers will look this, they will going to get the idea. If when this post will going to have a loading, this is what we will going to display. In case of error, this is the view. In case of a data, this is the view. So it is like a more expressive. So how we will going to enable this internally state? So instead of using this get post, this we can get rid of these things. So here we will going to like a set get post view. So here we will going to have the view loading. So once it will going to be load. So after that we will going to have like a get post data view. And in case of error, like here, just remove this, and here we will going to have like a get post view error, something like that. So now let's see how it's look like. So let's refresh this. Now if we call this, so if you see, let me refresh and put this in a slow network. So if I call this, so see loading post, and we will going to have the post. right? And let's check error view also. So if you see, we have a error post. It was loading and after that error. So I hope it's clear for you. The similar things we can do for the users also. So now we can get rid of this status. We don't need these status anymore. So this is how we can define this uh, view, and in a similar way we can define for the users also. So I'm just leaving this for the users to you. So let's do one thing, let's define for users also. Let's copy this and paste it here. So it will going to be user status and set for user view. Set user view, it's loading. And once we have this data, after that we can set users view, it's data. And in case of error, we can set like a set users view, it's error time, right? So now if we go here, let's refresh this and refresh this and put in slow 3G. Now if I call this, so just notice that we are loading users. Oh, we have not integrated here. So let's me copy this, paste it here. So it will going to be like a users status. So loading users, error post, and in case of a successful user, this is what we will going to display. So now if you see, it is looking like a more elegant, and the reusing the same logic, it's like a very easy. So now let's refresh this, no throttling. So now let's put in slow 3G. Now if I click on this, so loading post, we have the post, loading users, and now we have the users. So now using the same like a same type of structures throughout the projects, it's like a very easy. Now again we have some problems here. So just think like that. So you, every time we are calling this get post, sorry, set post view, this type of things. So we can have something better, we can get altogether get rid of these things. So if we get rid of this type of a callings, then after that this code will going to be look like code will going to be look like a more elegant if we get rid of this try catch and everything, right? Then how we will going to get rid of this try catch and everything? So let's write another function here. So what is the idea, let me explain you first, so you will able to follow me. So what I'm going to write here, so I'm going to write a one functions. So we will going to expose that functions from here, from this use status. So whatever if you see here, this is the call we are making. So this will going to be return, if you see here, this will going to be return like a axios. Let me remove this. So now if you see, so this will going to be return like a promise, and once this promise will going to be resolved, so it will going to be give us this axios response, which is type of the post, right? So we can have one functions, with that functions we can wrap this, or inside that functions we will going to wait for these things, and we will going to have like a status, we will able to track this call, right? And internally we will going to switch our view, so we don't need to like call this manually here, right? So this is what we will going to do. So let's go inside use status, let's write a new function. This function will going to be a sync. So here let's write like a status, it will going to be like some kind of a wrapper, and it will going to be generic. So we don't know who will going to be use this. If user is using this, t is going to user, and if post is using this, t will going to be resolved as the post. So it has to be like in generic. So we need to pass this functions one call, that will going to be ingoing call promise. Okay, this promise will going to be type of axios response. Once this axios response will going to be resolved, right, it will going to be type of any t or any. This t will going to replace from here with this t. In case of a post, it will going to post. In case of a user, it will going to be user. So once this going to be completed, after that it will going to be again return, it will going to return like a promise. We can wait for this promise, right? Or let's keep this very simple for now. Just open the body here. So what we will going to do here, we will going to use try catch here, right? Try and catch. Here we will going to have a error, something like that, right? Remove this. So inside this try catch, let's do one thing. Let's first set this current view is loading. Okay, and after that we will going to wait, like a wait response, await, and let's wait for this promise. Once this promise is resolved, after that we will going to set current view is data, and after setting this data we can return this response. Whatever this call is resolved, just return that. In case of a error, we will going to set like a current view, it will going to be error. And once this will going to be resolved, just return. No need to return, just throw this error. So here if you see, we are just throwing the error. So in parent code we have to use like a try catch. So in third step we will going to see how to get rid of this. So let's keep this step by step. I don't want to introduce everything in a one go, otherwise it will be difficult to follow you. So if any point of time something is not clear, you are free to use the comment option. Just put the comment, I will try to explain you, and you can rewatch this video. So here we will going to expose this status also, right? So inside the app status, let's do one thing. Let's import this status wrapper. So let's use this like a post status wrapper. Okay, so let's use this post status wrapper. So now we will going to wrap this axios call with this, like this, right? And even we don't need to provide any type of a type for the t generic one. It will going to automatically will going to be resolved. So if you see over here, if you see, it is getting post, like all the type is getting resolved correctly. Now we can read with this get post, delete this, get post data, delete this, and get post error, delete this, right? So now we have delete everything. So now let's see how it will going to be run. Okay, let's select no throttling, refresh, slow 3G, and click on this loading post. We have a data, right? And let's see the error scenario. Refresh this, slow 3G, and click and select offline error post. So everything is working as expected, and now we have moved one step further. So now we are not explicitly calling this get post one, where it is this one. So it is now displaying as unused. Just get rid of this, right? So it is working very expected, so it's more elegant. So now the next step, how we will going to get rid this with this try. Instead of using this like a stack try catch, this is like a tower of a error. So we need a way to get rid of this error. So here we will going to use this logic which is coming from the functional programming. So in functional programming, so we will not going to have like a try catch and this type of a declarative sorry imperative kind of a code where where we are telling each and everything. In a functional programming generally we don't have like a exception, we have a error. So there is a difference in exceptions and error. Whenever is exception is happen, so it will going to just crash the whole stack, everything. In case of error, we will going to with the same pipeline, instead of having data we will going to have some error. We will not going to crash anything, we will not going to throw anything. Function will going to be exist normally, like in a happy scenario. Generally we will have some kind of a wrapper left and right. In case of a successful, we will going to have a left data. In case of a error, we will going to have a right pipeline, something like that in a functional programming we used to do. So here we will going to have some array. So let me define a return type now here. So it will going to be resolved in a promise, and this promise will going to be a array. And first index data will going to be the data axios response, and it type of any and t. And second data will going to be like a unknown. Unknown means like a error or something. If you hover here, so it is saying unknown, this is the errors, right? And it can be null also. So if you see what we are saying here, so we will going to return the one promise. When this promise will going to resolve, it will going to resolve in array, and we will going to have always two data. At 0 index we will going to have a data, at 1 index we will going to have a error. So instead of returning like this, we can have like this. In case of data, we will going to have a data for error null, and in case of error, instead of throwing, just return here. In case of a data, null, and for the error, this is the error. This is how we will going to return. So this is like a more elegant, more better way of dealing. Now we will not going to throw this type of exception, right? So instead of using this thing here, so let's use this like this. Okay, this is the post response, this is the post error. In case if we want to use this post error and we want to show some error based on this post, right? And here if you see, we will going to use this like this post data. And now we can get rid of this try and this catch. We don't need this try and catch if we need error, and this is how we will going to get this error, right? And when we want to call these functions, right, so here we can have something like that. If there is like a post error, sorry, if there is no post error, then we will going to call this also, and also this. Or maybe we can write early return approach, which is very good for resolving like a if and else. Early return approach is like handling the negative scenario first. Here we can write like a return, just return the function from here, right? In other cases we can write like something like this, post response, and let's cut it from here, and this thing. And even if you want to get rid of these things, you can maybe like this. If there is no post error response, then return, then we don't need to like this. Okay, so if there is a no post response, then return, and after that, if it is there, then set this post, and after that we are very good to make this call, right? In a similar way we can get rid of these things also. So let's import this also, status wrapper and user status wrapper. Let's use this user status wrapper, wrap this function, and now let's delete this, delete this, delete this, delete. This is all right. So when we have this user, we can have like this. Okay, and if this user is exist, just set this, something like that. So these things will going to be look like a more elegant. If we need the error also, then we can have like a user error. And here we are not interested in user error, then it's okay. It will going to say as a unused and for the same post. So now let's see. Let's refresh this. Let's put in offline. Refresh this. So if I click, see, everything is working. Let's refresh and put in slow 3G. If I click here, loading post, we will have post, loading user, we have the user, right? So now if you see this post, now see, it's looking like a more understandable and more clear. If you see await, we will going to wait for the this call, and this error handling and everything is going to be handled internally. Once it's will going to resolve the data, this is how we will going to get the data. And if you see, and it is like a very flat code, we will not going to have a, like a try catch and something like a tower of errors, and we will not going to have like a if else something like that. It's be like a very flat code, right? And if you see here, it is like a very understandable and very self declarative. If someone look this, they will going to get the idea. So I hope you like this approaches. I really encourage you. So if you like this, then please follow this. It is like a very good, and it's like a very clean design for handling this type of situations. If you like this, please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.